Carbon sequestration is the process of capturing and storing atmospheric carbon dioxide. It is one method of reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere with the goal of reducing global climate change. The Niger Delta harbors conditions that can enhance as well as hinder this process, what with its dense vegetation on the one hand and all pollution issues leading to exposure of harmful gas and effluents into the atmosphere. At the ongoing climate change conference in Azerbaijan, diplomats have applauded key rules that govern the trade of carbon credits, breaking a years-long deadlock and paving the way for rich countries to pay for cheap climate action abroad while delaying expensive emission cuts at home. The agreement has been called an early win after being snubbed by prominent world leaders and clouded by the threat of Donald Trump's victory in the U.S. presidential election. But critics have warned the rules were rushed through without following proper process. Warredi Enisuoh is a carbon credit expert and executive director, operations and technical services at Tantita Security Services. He joins us now to discuss Niger Delta's potential contribution towards enhancing climate change through biological sequestration of greenhouse gas emissions. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Good afternoon.
So let's start, with your thoughts on diplomats' approval of carbon credit rules on day one of COP29 after years of deadlock. Was it well thought through, or do you think the process was rushed?
Well, the process, I think, was rushed. It was rushed because of the exigency of the case. The world is warming up. The carbon budget is not very, very big at the moment, knowing fully well that by 2030, which is only 6 years from now, we have to reduce emissions by 50%. So it's quite rushed, and there's a reason to rush it. It's better to rush it than not to do it at all. It's also a very, very big opportunity for the Niger Delta region at the moment, which has got a very strong taste bud for creating further pollution because of the oil-rich regions that are abound. So, yes, fair enough, it's rushed, but I think the rush is necessary.
But some of the critics of this Article 6 and its this new policy is that some of the carbon market projects have a history of overpromising and under-delivering. They have a lot of issues with transparency and are sometimes doing more harm than good for the environment. Do you feel still that this is the right way to go? How can these be curbed and checked? And does it undermine the previous Paris Agreement?
Well, it doesn't really undermine the Paris Agreement. I think it builds on the Paris Agreement. That is one thing. And the reason why there is also been a situation whereby people have been undercutting each other, as you know, when it comes to carbon credits, we're talking about data. We're also talking about high-level knowledge about all of these things. Like here in Tantita, we have got a couple of drones that we use to seek data. We use to store data about the region when it comes to biological sequestration. By that I mean the number of trees in a particular region, how these trees can further be evaluated and then converted into carbon credits for the communities abound in the area. You're not wrong. Normally, in every business environment, it's about the smartest boys in the room. So it is left for everybody to up their games and come up with suggestions, that are going to enhance or aid their benefit when it comes to this whole thing. Now, we've got a very, very strong potential here at the moment, especially we in the Niger Delta. It's a very, very strong one. Besides also, the political change in the United States is going to help this region a lot when it comes to carbon credits, because the incoming administration is going to be talking about America First. America First is about jobs first for the Americans, and jobs first means more greenhouse gases emission for now, and that is why people like Elon Musk and so they are celebrating at the moment, because he's going to make a whole lot of money from developing electric cars. And his formula of selling carbon credits is very, very high. I give him credit for that, because for every car he sells, I'm just giving you an example, for every car he sells, he goes out there and obtain the value in carbon credit by virtue of the fact that he's into more or less renewable energy. So that is what we're looking at.
Now, you talked about, the Niger Delta having a lot of potential. So I'm wondering what role, and what adaptation efforts can local communities, like the Niger Delta areas, what adaptations can they make to combat the effect of climate change?
The Niger Delta at the moment is very, very rich in forestation. So there are two ways you can get your carbon credit. Either you get it through biological sequestration. And biological sequestration, I mean, by simple photosynthesis. The trees in the region are capable of absorbing CO2 and emitting CO2. Emitting O2 rather. So it's about collecting data about these trees and then, converting the abilities of these type of trees, studying them and converting the ability to absorb greenhouse gases from the atmosphere is very, very key to us. I mean, the mangrove trees, the moss, the bamboo trees, these are very good trees when it comes to absorbing greenhouse gases from the atmosphere and releasing clean air like CO2 back into the atmosphere. If we are organized enough and work with the Boundary Commission here and there to be able to demarcate the assets, the biological assets that these communities have, and then, apportion them to communities, we may be able to convert these to carbon credits, which can be traded in the carbon market. And with that alone, they can now exchange these credits for or with carbon credit developers and convert, whatever they earn into some form of development. Because there are just some regions that you can't even plant trees anymore again. There are other regions that you can plant trees. So the regions that you can't plant trees anymore can be converted to regions where we can obtain or get renewable energies, like mount solar panels in those areas that can now generate free electricity for the people. So the potential is very, very strong and very, very big. In fact, Nigeria can boast of possibly, apart from the Congo has got the largest forest in Africa, but I think Nigeria will probably be within the 4th to the 5th or something like that.
And as is with most things in Nigeria, there's a lot of potential. The issue is the actual implementation or the temerity to get the work done. With this biological sequestration, the process seems simple enough. But in your opinion, how soon and how efficient could a team be thrown together to organize such? How close are we to getting towards this biological sequestration as it is, seeing that it is beneficial for the Niger Delta most especially?
As I said earlier, it's about data. If you don't have the capacity to obtain data, it's going to be very, very difficult. And that's why we have partnered with some companies like, Oxitane, which also the government is working with. At the moment, they are partners with the government when it comes to carbon credits and here and there. We've partnered with them because one of the things you have to do is first to prove ownership of the area that has the capacity to work on this biological sequestration. So that's number one. Number two, you have to get data on the biological assets, the number of assets you have and the type of assets you have, so that it will be able to be portrayed as, it will be portrayed as your ability to be able to, or your sequestration process. And then you have to register your sequestration process in the carbon credit registry. So we got quite a fair way to go, but if you look to my left and right, you will see that we got drones that we normally use to obtain a lot of these data, which we are planning to exchange with the companies that have the capacity to mine this data, keep this data, so that we'll be able to convert this data to monies for the communities. But we still got a fair bit to do, and that's why we are here to talk to you, so that the wider public knows that we have a potential to come together, work together with the government, both at state, local, and federal level, to make sure that these things work, because this is a second chance for Africa to key into participating with the developed world in achieving something. Because, I mean, we kind of missed out on the industrial age, but we don't want to miss out on the future age.
Now, well, you know, talking about the potentials in the Niger Delta, of course, there's also the issue of environmental degradation from continued oil exploration, and also the issue of Nigeria's struggle with waste management, particularly e-waste. So what policies, you know, or rules do you think can be put in place to mitigate this threat?
Well, first we have to get data on the areas we just can't do anything about. And you're very, very correct. If you take a flight over the Niger Delta, you will definitely see from the skies that some areas on the ground, in fact, waste management and things like this are quite a bit of a problem. That is number one. Number two, also, some areas have been badly devastated by pollution. So at the moment, what we are trying to do is to be able to correlate images, both thermal and color images, on how we can best utilize these particular areas. In fact, some areas are very, very bad that the communities have had to evacuate because of the high level of carcinogens in the area. So yes, there's going to be a cleanup plan. There's also going to be a plan to educate the community. So we're not only talking to those who know, we are also coming up with projects to enlighten the communities, and also we have to work with NESRIA, the environmental people that are in charge of all of this, to NOSDRA, to even the Nigerian Climate Change Commission and all of that, then the Boundary Commission. So there is still a lot of work to do. We are just around with the, if I may put it this way, the technical capacity to be able to support the necessary governmental agencies to achieve this. And I think it is achievable because the current government is taking this very, very seriously. And that is why I believe they have a booth in Azerbaijan as we speak. And
earlier you were talking about the drones and their use. Could you tell us more about I'm having a moment. The credits and the way that the drone have helped in making sure that the Niger Delta has its climate change discussion still up and running?
Okay, first, drones do give us data, because if you're going to say you have 50,000 trees in your community, it is not just about you declaring that you have 50,000 trees. It is very difficult to send humans on ground to go and count these trees that have got that capacity for biological sequestration. But with the drones that we have, they have the capacity to be able to obtain thermal images and also be able to know the type of trees here and there. Now, what the carbon creditors, here and there would want to know also is the fact that if you set up things like this, how are you sure that there's not going to be deforestation in the period we have a contract with you not to tamper or touch the forest? So we have the capacity to be able to ensure that we have forestry officers on ground that is going to prevent deforestation. That is number one. So daily basis, we've mapped out areas that we're going to overfly so that the forest is not tampered with. These are the technical supports we can also give. And one thing also, getting carbon credits is not about just getting the credits. You also have to monitor to make sure that the communities you so want to involve in these things are themselves not polluters anymore. So we have separate drones that we can couple methane and carbon pollutant detectors on those drones to make sure that we keep record of what is going on within the community. So it's really a net value issue. So the amount you pollute by the amount you absorb, the net value is going to be your credit.
Credits, are a valuable tool. Some analysts believe that that's just a part of the equation. They say that to significantly combat climate change, systemic changes are needed, in the way our country, our economies are run. Can you talk to us a bit about those systemic changes that are needed?
The systemic changes that are needed, we must have very robust laws, because there's nothing you can do without the necessary laws. And we also need enlightenment. People must understand that what is standing out there is part of what we are going to survive on, because we can't just abandon this planet to somewhere else because we've damaged it or something like that. So there is a need for even our universities to embark on these researches and start training the future generation that are going to really work on this very well. Then we also need the ministries like the National Orientation Agency, the Nigerian Climate Change Commission, and NESRIA and NOSRA, and all of these other people to be able to key in and give us a document that we can follow in this particular direction that we do intend to take. Africa has been left behind so much when it comes to keying into world activities. So this is the time. We have the open hand to discuss and be able to give the necessary support and suggestions from what we are seeing as a result of our drone flights and here and there. Yes.
Well, Warredi Enisuoh, thank you so much for joining us for this discussion this afternoon. You're the carbon credit expert and Tantita Security Services Executive Director. Thank you for joining us.